Jacksonville Jaguars are looking to avoid going 0-3, while the Buffalo Bills are looking to go 3-0 and keep the undefeated season alive after they had a dominant victory on Thursday Night Football against the Miami Dolphins. We're going to break down this Week 3 matchup here between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Buffalo Bills, and also all the in-game matchups that you need to watch during the game. And at the very end of the video, give our prediction. But before we get into that, we want to give a huge thank you to everybody that subscribed to the Tracy Take during our Week 2 videos. We had a goal of getting 100 new subscribers during that week. We actually ended up getting well over 200 new subscribers, so we greatly appreciate that. And I say let's not get greedy here. For this week, 3 videos, let's see if we can get another 100. So if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button, and while you're at it, leave a like and a comment. Let us know who you think is going to win this game between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Buffalo Bills. And Ryan, I want to throw it over to you here first, and let's quickly talk about your AFC East rivals here, because I thought they looked phenomenal. We've been doing the Tracy Take now this is our 4th season, and when we first started in those first 2 years, we were telling the Bills, like, you guys need to learn how to run the ball in a more traditional pattern. And I feel like they're really starting to do that as well. Running the ball between the tackles with James Cook, they just dominant game all around. I think Josh Allen only threw for like 120-something yards, like not really a super dominant stats game for him. But they got up big, and they're running the ball extremely well with James Cook. And then also you combine that with Josh Allen's running ability. What do you think of this Bills team before we kind of quickly talk about the Jags?
Yeah, this is a good Bills team. First of all, I am a little bit concerned about some of the injuries in that linebacker room. They lost Terrell Bernard against the Dolphins. I'm not sure the severity of his injury and when he's expected to return, but he missed the rest of that game. And then also they lost Matt Milano at the beginning of the year. And I'll push back a little bit. I thought the Bills were a good running team. Interesting kind of stats. So they're, in terms of overall running grade on PFF, they're in the top 10. But when you actually look at their run blocking grade, it's in the bottom 10 in the league. And even watching the Miami game, I thought they struggled to run the ball until James Cook busted the 49-yard touchdown run. And then after that, it was like the floodgates had opened. And like, with that being said, I feel like Josh Allen, especially in the beginning of games, is kind of making up for their short term or like short yardage, like run plays. And they're also like kind of substituting some of that stuff earlier in games, spreading defenses out with like some high percentage passes. So that might be why I feel early in games they're not running the ball as well as they are later in games. Could also just be they're wearing down defenses later in games.
I think it's that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's just, you see like 2 tackle for losses, like with a 4-yard gain in between it for the first 2 quarters, and then a 49-yard run. It's just an observation. So
yeah,
I also think I'm very interested to see how this receiving core does throughout the rest of the year. Khalil Shakur is having a good season so far. It'd be interesting to see how well he's able to kind of contribute and control the offense from the slot, because it doesn't really feel like they have an outside presence at wide receiver. It feels like a lot of their downfield throws come off of Josh Allen scrambles and receivers winning in the transition phases of those plays. So very interested to see kind of how the Bills do going forward. Absolutely walloped Miami team. That's a matchup they've dominated for a while, and just kind of see how they do going forward. But this is a really good Bills team as they've kind of, I don't like the term rebuilt, but I don't know.
I think they've changed their identity. From the start of our channel to now, I think they've changed their identity from kind of a gunslinging team to a much more balanced approach, and I think it's better for their overall identity. Also, then too, as you kind of get later on into the season, like that they're confident they can be establishing that run, especially games up in Buffalo in December. You got to be able to run the ball, and I think that's going to open things up for them in the passing game.
And I want to give a big shout out to Josh Allen. At the beginning of last year, really like the first half of last year's season, he was reckless with the football, and he still runs a little bit reckless, but I think you're just never going to coach that out of him. But he was reckless with the football and throwing into tight windows and down in double coverage. And maybe it's just because they don't have like the Stephon Diggs or Gabe Davis down the field threats that they did the last couple seasons. But he's been very good protecting the football in the air and like hitting guys in open windows later in plays and not chucking it just to see what happens. So That's been a good improvement to his game. And I think Jacksonville has been an interesting team as well. They have like had really good offense in like spurts. Like the first half of the Miami game and the second half of the Browns game, they had some really effective offensive game plans, but it just feels like they can never piece. They haven't. It's only been 2 weeks, but they haven't quite pieced together like a full offensive game plan just quite yet.
Yeah. Well, it coming to this, they're 0-2 now after losing to the Browns. Unfortunately, had a kind of a shock injury during warm-ups. Evan Ingram didn't play because he did something to his hamstring. That's going to be an injury to monitor throughout not only this upcoming week, but over the next couple of weeks. His hamstrings can be extremely fickle. Then also it does look like Andre Sisco did not return to the game because of groin injury. I think Bigsby also got hurt as well, but he's backup running back, not as big of a deal, but still just something to note. But the secondary with Andre Sisco not returning. And I needed to go back and double check. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know Tyson Campbell got banged up in the first week. I don't know if he I can't remember if he was the one that played or not. If you can check for that, check on that for me right now.
It looks like he played. He doesn't seem to be on the inactive list.
Okay, no, that's good then. But still, just kind of keep getting banged up in that secondary because Jacksonville is going to be a team. They just seem good in a lot of areas, but when they go up with how deep the AFC is, it just seems like they're just not good enough. It seems over these past couple of games, had opportunities to win both games. That's kind of the essence of football.
No, he was out. Sorry, he was out this week.
He was out. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
So I was correct on that then. So now Andre Sisco's out, and then Tyson Campbell. Those injuries need to be monitored then throughout the upcoming week as well and over the next couple of weeks. Because if their secondary keeps getting worse and worse, it's going to be tough for this team to contribute. Because because of the big X factor going into this game that I'll say here in a second. But before we get into the Jags-Bills matchup, if you do like to put a couple bucks down on the Jags or Bills games, be sure to check the link down below for BetUS. They have a bunch of great promotions going on right now for first-time players for all the NFL games. Also, then too, they're able to do NBA, MLB, any other sports game as well. So check the link down below if you want to bet on this game. But when I look at this game here, when it comes to odds, Bills are clearly going to be the favorites as they're the undefeated team versus the winless team. But I also think, too, just some of the stuff that you were saying as well before the ad read is the Bills just look like they're playing more consistent, kind of confident football. While the Jags, when I watch it, it does come in spurts. And to me, I think the biggest X factor for this game is how is this Jags offensive line going to do? Because Trevor Lawrence didn't look great against the Browns. Some of that is definitely on him. Some of that, though, is on the offensive line. And you're going up against Myles Garrett on the Browns team. But I felt like they would just all of a sudden just be like a breakdown in pocket presence. Just the offensive line would just collapse. And so they're the team as a whole just didn't seem to play well, but it does seem like the success for the Jags, and you can say it's for most teams, but the success for the Jags kind of live and die by the overall success of the offensive line, which does still seem pretty inconsistent play in and play out. That second half of the game, felt like Trevor Lawrence had a lot more time, to kind of pick apart that Browns defense, better play calling. It seemed guys were able to let the routes develop and get open. They went down, scored a touchdown, almost went down and scored a touchdown again, but went for it on 4th and goal, but then didn't get it. I went of 16-13. And so that was like two really good drives. And it was one of those, he had good time. He had good pocket. He had good pocket presence to kind of pick apart this defense. It even showed his scrambling ability a little bit as well during that time. And if this offensive line is not able to stop this Buffalo Bills defensive front, I think once again, similar to Miami, it's just going to be a long day, I think, for Jacksonville up in Buffalo, because this defensive front seven, I think, is like their best part. And as you said, they're dealing with some injuries, but still it seems like it's just a next man up mentality with Leonard Floyd coming in. Von Miller even had a sack in the last week's game. Going up against, admittedly,
Leonard Floyd is gone, I believe.
Not Leonard Floyd.
Greg Rousseau.
Yeah. Sorry, my bad. I was thinking because Leonard Floyd is with the Niners, I believe. And so he hurt his name today. But the Bills, just in general, though, just have that next man up mentality and have a great defensive front. And I think it's going to be a huge point of emphasis for the Jags. If they want any chance of winning, they got to be able to stop the and give Trevor Lawrence some time. Need to monitor the injuries as well for Evan Ingram, because I think that was a big loss today as well, because I think he's a big piece to this overall success for this offense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that'll definitely be something to monitor. Hamstring injuries, I doubt he'll play, depending on how severe it is, just because that is one of those injuries. Like, if you don't let it heal properly all the way, you'll just keep pulling it. And it's one of the most frustrating things. So let's kind of get into our predictions here. I want to throw it over to you first. Who do you have coming out ahead, and what do you think each team has to do to win?
Buffalo, I think that you just got to just do what you've been doing and just win in the trenches. Buffalo, if they win in the trenches, I think they're going to be able to have a great balanced running attack. If it's going to open up the passing game, and if this Jags secondary, which is something that we'll need to monitor as well, but it seems like they're already a little banged up, and so they're going to be down a couple of guys. It's only going to open things up as well. So if they're winning on the offensive line and getting that push, I think they're going to run the ball through James Cook. I think he gets another 100 yards. I think Josh Allen can throw for over 200 yards as well against this vulnerable Jags team, because I think the Jags can keep pace if they're able to protect them, if they're able to protect Trevor Lawrence. But I just think throughout a 60-minute game, I think it's going to be tough for the Jags to consistently keep keep protecting him against this Bills defensive front. And for the Jags, I'll say if they want to prove me wrong, really going to have to pin their ears back, going to have to get a lead early so that Josh Allen, Trayvon Walker can really go after the other Josh Allen. Because one thing I'm going to be curious about is if the Bills get down in games, how do they come back passing the ball through the air? Because to your point, they don't really have as much of that like deep threat explosiveness capabilities, it seems, kind of play by play that as they've had in the prior years.
Yeah, and that's I'm also going with Buffalo. I think they're just going to be the better team here, and they're going to wear down the Jags. But if I'm Jacksonville, I'm putting 8 guys in the box. I'm going one-on-one outside. Like, Khalil Shakir is not going to beat you deep per se, especially like if it is a pass, you can drop a linebacker back underneath and just have your DBs kind of play over the top. And I know that's a little bit risky, but I think Jacksonville has to turn this game into a track meet. I don't see how they're going to win a 17-13 type game against the Bills. I just think the Bills, like, that's kind of the football the Bills want to play is, all right, we're going to run the ball. We're going to play field position. Like, we're going to be the more physical team today. And to me, that's going to be the Bills. I think if Jacksonville wants to win, they have to, like, it has to be a 35-31 type game where they just, all right, well, we know you're sending a blitz, but we're going to chuck it up to one-on-one coverage with Brian Thomas Jr. Or like, we're going to try to hit this window with Christian Kirk on a deep dig or something like that. And then that's when you put Josh Allen in those situations where he can make mistakes and make him have to force the ball down the field to this very young and inexperienced wide receiver group with the Bills. So I think that's how the Jags have to approach it. Yeah. So let's go ahead, wrap this one up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on who you think is going to come out ahead in this matchup. And on that, we will see you guys next time.